Hi, fifth grade. So last week we started learning about coordinate point pairs and finding the coordinate pairs of points on coordinate planes. Today we're going to continue that work and really specifically focus on trying to figure out where the location of a point is on a plane. So let's take a look at last week's exit ticket. Right here we had a coordinate plane. It has our x-axis on the bottom and our y-axis on the top, going up and down. And just based on what I see that my origin is labeled here as 0, 0. So now my origin point is 0, 0, where everything begins. And I see that my x-axis goes until 5. However, there are tick marks or lines in between each whole number. That tells me instead of measuring by one whole, each tick mark represents 1/2, or we're adding 1/2. So this is 1/2, 1, 1 and 1/2, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. I'll label some of those points in just so I remember. 3.5, 4.5. Oops. 1/2, 4. There we go. And I can see that my y-axis has that similar pattern. This is 1/2. This is 1 and 1/2. This is 2.5. Every time we see a tick mark or one of these lines in between two numbers that are labeled, it means that we need to figure out how much that tick mark is worth. So a lot of us said yesterday when we were looking at this exit ticket that it went up by ones. It does go up by ones on how it's labeled, but really it goes up by halves because there's lines in between. So really look at every line. Now it's asking us, so the tick marks on the coordinate plane measure how much? They would measure 1/2. And I'd put my, I forgot, what do you call this? Put my answer as 1/2, not 1/4, not 1 whole. So let's take a look at this one right here. You guys are asked to find the coordinate pair, meaning where it is located for my arrow point on my coordinate plane below. So we start at the arrow and we draw a line down to the x-axis. And we start at the arrow again and draw a line over to the y-axis. Now coordinate pairs, remember, are x, y. So we need to figure out what is y and what is x and find the point that matches. And guys, it's x, y, or to the over and up, over and up. And you could think about it in alphabetical order too. X comes before y in the alphabet, so it goes first. So let's take a look. My x coordinate lands right here, in between the 1 and the 2, which we called 1 and 1/2. So my arrow hits on the x coordinate 1 and 1/2, which means I went over 1 and 1/2 for my arrow. And then I went up to 2. I know we found our coordinates by going from the point, but that's just another way of saying in order to get to this arrow, I went over 1.5 and I went up 2. So my answer is going to be 1 and 1/2, 2. X and then y. Let's take a look at this one and this one. So on this one, we need to find the heart. Sorry, kids. And I know that I have my coordinates. And I know that I'm looking for x and then y. Again, 5th grade, I like to color coordinate. You don't necessarily have to. So I found the heart. I'm going to go over on the y-axis. And then I'm going to go down and see where it meets the x-axis. And I'm going to figure out my points. On the x, it hits 4, which means has an x coordinate of 4. On my y, it looks like when I went all the way over, I'm in between 4 and 5, which means if we go back up here, that I'm at 4 1/2. So my y coordinate is 4 1/2. This means in order to find the heart, I started at my origin, I went over 4 units, and then I went up 4 1/2 units to find my heart. So our answer is 4 1/2. And then finally, we have two shapes that have the same y coordinate of 4 1/2, which means two of these shapes are at this point on my y coordinate, on my y-axis. And I can already see which two those are. The heart and the sun go up from the origin 4 1/2 units. Both of them do, regardless of where they are on the x, meaning no matter where they are on the x-axis, they are going up 4 1/2 units. My arrow only goes up 2. So I should have clicked the sun and the heart. We're going to try again and look at it kind of on paper and go over a couple examples before you guys are going to take another swing at trying to figure out the coordinate pairs of different points on a coordinate plane.